you have to go beyond the science into philosophy. However, I'm going to ask you a bit of a different question. I'm going to ask you, look, is there indirect evidence, not direct observation, not evidence directly of us observing God, but is there indirect evidence of God's existence that we would find in a field like yours, which is biomedical science, to basically point us towards the reality of God? Is this something that you think is worth exploring when it comes to us evangelizing to atheists?
Yeah, so look, if you just look at just science in general, in terms of even the human body, the complications and how complex it is. I remember showing you, when I was studying actually, I remember showing you a map. And this is a very normal, I mean, look, the simple form is like, for example, something like the Calvin cycle, right? I don't know if you guys know about this, but you memorize something called the Calvin cycle in the first year of biochem, and it talks about the carbon fixation, the reduction phase, the carbon formation. It goes through the whole cycle, right? And this is something basic you have to memorize. But then by the end of your degree, you're looking at these biochem maps inside your body, and people have no idea that these exist. This is the map, yeah? That's a biochemical map of the functions and the cycles that happen inside your body. So if you're telling me that, could this be written on a paper if there was like an explosion and there was ink? Forget the actual function, but just having that written, it wouldn't be written on a paper, let alone existing inside our bodies. So of course there's so much. I mean, you look at simple things like how muscles move. People don't think, they think, yeah, you just move your muscle. The amount of reactions and the breakdown of ATP and ADP and triphosphate, and just to move your arm, right? From what angle or from where are you coming from that you say that, look, you know what, this is all just random, and we observe these kind of random things are happening in our life as well. Of course it points to ultimate design, just from some of the simple stuff that I've studied. But to add to that also, bro, you have to understand that you think in the villages you can go and tell them about science in Philippines, and these people, you think those people that they understand science and that's the only way for them to understand or come to a realization of their, you know, their purpose of life or their existence? So of course not. That's a very narrow mindset if you're going to just limit it to science, just because it's worked for in certain aspects for you. I mean, you're going to use science to make your little daughter understand why she shouldn't have done that. Are you going to use compassion? Are you going to use wisdom? Are you going to use other things? So yeah, definitely, I think narrow approach to just use one angle.
Yeah, I really like your practical approach, because what you're essentially saying is, let's look at it practically. You want to teach someone some morals, whether it's your child or somebody else. Are you going to give them a periodic table and point out right and wrong using the, you know, a particular subatomic structure is, you know, right, and this particular structure is wrong? I mean, no one does that. It doesn't make any sense. However, I do remember many years ago when you were studying and you were showing this picture, it was just like unbelievable, the design, the precision, the power, the thinking that, you know, a human would have to go through to put that together, let alone what a human like you has to go to in order to pass the degree, which is another matter, right? You just have to sort of study it and say, okay, fine, here's the exam, I understand how it works, I understand how if you change the variables you get different results, perfect. However, imagine if you were told by scratch, and show the viewers that picture again, please, while I'm speaking. You were told by scratch, yeah, this is the image. Like, look at that, right? Isa, tell us, what is that?
It's not just one. There's many metabolic pathways, and not just that. It has to be right. It has to work. There can't be an error inside it, because if there's an error, right? If there's an error in like a chemical production plant, there is a disaster, right? The batches won't come out right. It won't function. Imagine there's an error inside your body, you know. But if there's a small error, people basically they can't function properly, or they die, or they have mental health issues, or they can't function. So imagine this: it has to work, and is created, and it's inside your body that you don't even know about.
Absolutely, absolutely. And look, I generally like to give people a very simple argument, and that simple argument is this: if you want to block off all the doors of knowledge except science, most of the knowledge that you hold in your cranium, which is rational, cannot be scientifically justified. And we could do a simple thought experiment to show that. So let's look at this. The first thing is the vast majority of human knowledge is actually testimonial. Why do we believe in Genghis Khan? Why do we believe in Napoleon or Alexander the Great? It's testimony, nothing to do with science. Okay, now let's look at morality. Morality is the driving force of human behavior. Can you actually prove morals, the existence of morals, using science? No, you can't. Mathematics and logic, again, something which science presupposes, not something that science can prove. And likewise, we have metaphysical questions. Where am I? What am I doing? Why do I exist? Are there other minds? What's the nature of consciousness? Mind-body dualism, all these types of questions. Purpose of life, all of these things, they are metaphysical questions, nothing to do with science. Additional to that is truth. What is the value of truth? Is truth intrinsically valuable or is it instrumentally valuable? Something that we had a discussion on another live chat on SC Dawah maybe a week or two ago. So none of these things can be explained via science. These are things which we show the limits of science and the presuppositions of science. And what we're doing today is we're inviting people onto the show to have a live discussion with us. Do you agree with us? Do you agree with us that science has limits? Do you agree with us science has presuppositions? Do you agree with us science does not give you certainty? And do you agree that there are other routes of knowledge, and to reach God's existence, we can go through the fitrah, which is a natural innate disposition, or through spirituality, or through logic, or through philosophy, or through another means, introspection or whatever. It doesn't have to be science. You're using a screwdriver to basically try and drill a hole in the ground, right? You're using the wrong tool for the wrong job. So if you start off with the wrong foot, you're not going to get to the right direction. You're not going to get to the right place you're trying to get to.
Assalamu alaikum, brothers. How are you today?
Well, Jason, how are you doing?
I'm very well, alhamdulillah. Actually, I called in because I want to say that I actually agree with you guys. Brother, I noticed that you had used the example of the chemical plant, which I happen to work at one, okay? Now, me personally, I believe that science is very limited because even out here where I work, the processes that everything has to go through takes a combination of so many different minds. Whereas Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is one, He has created everything that we have here, even when it comes down to this facility. The intellect that goes into building this facility has to come from somewhere. It can't just be a random thing that begins. So me personally, I agree wholeheartedly with what you have said, that science is very limited.
Thank you so much for your message. And it's really nice example that you gave of a power plant. It's right in line with what Isa was, Isa, you got anything to say about that? Because he's absolutely spot on.
No, it's very powerful. I mean, he's there, and we know. I mean, this is quite simple. You know, a lot of people, they get paid just to do planning for factories, because a factory, anything that has like a production line. Why I use that example is because even humans, humans are created, humans are in masses. So anytime you produce something on mass scale, how did that come into being? How did you manufacture it? And you look at these power plants, there's power plants that can't figure out how to run until they have the whole system in place. They pay people hundreds of thousands of pounds. How much electric you need. This is the process to produce an optimal batch. And then once they do that, then they're running. And this is, look at human bodies is way more complicated than a power plant, because it's not just that. It has many different aspects. It has emotions. It has your brain. It has, your physical function. So there's so much more.
You do not stereotype the entire religion based on that. I think my best advice would be actually to seek knowledge and to seek to understand that particular faith from the true adherents, from the true followers, or the best thing from the scripture.
Even if there was less, it still would have been a problem.
Out of those million, I would say
few thousand would be wearing burqa.
Yeah.
Why was it not a problem then?
What's the difference then? What's the difference? Huh? Why did God have to take the form of man if he didn't want to be a man?
There's a copy, the brother's offering you.
Oh, okay.
There you go, English translation. What's your name?
Wish you the best. Javi.
Nice
Javi
talking to you.
from
Take care.
Spain.
My name is Mansoor.
Mansur.
He looked up to heaven and he prayed.
Exactly. Why does he pray to God when he's God?
A power that needs to be worshipped or submitted to. That's what you believe. Rather than believing in nothing, you'd say, no, in fact, what I've come to believe is that there was a creation, there was a creator, yeah, and that creator is continually maintaining us.
No, I said if there is God and there is a life after death, you're taking a huge gamble by rejecting it.
Knowing everything calls on you, the Lord Most High.